Hi all, I'm Cullen Haynes and welcome to Law Live. Happy Wednesday, 8th of May. And I have got a true gem and legal powerhouse I'm about to bring on. Recently returned from a fantastic trip in Japan, which I'll let her talk about, and is absolutely changing the paradigm for legal professionals everywhere. Not only is she a legal advisor, a writer, a coach and facilitator, but well-being advocate. And I think we're going to be talking a lot about that today. Been in the legal space since 2012 and was a practicing lawyer for 4.5, almost 5 years. Can you please make very welcome someone who needs no introduction to many of you, Miss Mollie Tregillis. How are you, Mollie?
Hi, good. So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you, I must say. And thank you for joining in and just reminding everyone this is live. So be sure to put your questions into Mollie as we
love
speak.
Questions. We love them.
We love questions. We love questions. So getting right into it, because obviously everyone saw your fantastic holiday. How was it? How was Japan? And why did you go to the places that you went to, which obviously looks so awesome and tranquil?
It was so amazing. I highly recommend. I'm going to do a write-up on everything because I've had so many people ask me, where did you go? What did you do? It was wonderful. I have a 4-year-old and a 13-year-old stepson, so we're all together. My husband is a master trip planner, so planned this incredible itinerary for us, and we did the big cities and mountains and like random little towns where people don't really speak English. It was just incredible. It was just wonderful, and I think most people that go to Japan say the same thing, right? They come back just like, oh, that was amazing, and really amazing with little kids as well. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. And you deliberately chose places off the beaten track, I believe, or you and your husband.
Yeah. So my husband essentially, when we were going out of the big cities, found this article about like the most beautiful Airbnbs in Japan, and then planned an itinerary around some of them, which took us to places we would never know about otherwise. And I'm so glad we did it because we met, like tiny little producers of natural wine, which we love, or like little tiny like shop that only does buckwheat noodles, and they make them and grind them there. So we had this really wonderful kind of village experience from going off the beaten track, and all in the comfort of a nice car. And there's still 7-Elevens everywhere, so it's really not a hard adventure to have.
No, absolutely. That is the one thing you'll never be deprived of in Japan. You are always close to a 7-Eleven or a vending machine on every single corner.
Which is, as someone that is always worried about being hungry, very comforting. Very comforting.
Yeah. They have hot and cold food, which is fantastic. But what's happening in your world right now?
Yeah, so I'm just back, like literally got back on Saturday. So I'm kind of back in work mode, whatever that means for me now, which is an interesting question. But I have some really fun stuff going on. I'm working on a diagnostic project on innovation for a large firm. I've got an amazing mentoring group called Corporate Recovery I run. So we're midway through that with a group that are looking at how to live and work better. I'm off to Legal Tech Fest next week to do some sessions, and I've got some other fun stuff brewing. So I'm kind of I'm looking to plan the next kind of 6 months of fun with the kind of idea that I want to do things that light me up, which is a luxury, but it's kind of the goal of my new life.
I want to get into that and unwrap that and unpack that a bit more because obviously I'm working from home today. I'm usually in a suit, which my superhero costume is here hanging up. But I'm a little bit more relaxed today because I think it's important that we talk about this whole well-being and balance or quality, which I heard the other day, work-life quality. How would you, I guess, explain that, like your concept of your whole philosophy, really?
Yeah, and it's such a good question. I've been thinking about it so much, and going to Japan, I've got this other lens on it. And I think where I'm at now, like this idea of work-life balance, as it gets a bit beaten up, right? Because what does it really mean? I think a lot of us are very passionate about our work and want a good life. So it's not about these like binary, like I work and then I go home. But
that's right.
What I'm thinking about now is what does it mean to have a really good quality of life? And for some people that is working really hard, but in a way that they're passionate about and that they're still healthy. And it's looking at, I think for each person, what are the factors that make me have a holistically good quality of life? For some people, that's a lot of work and then a really nice, cozy house where everything's automated. I don't know, like I'm making it up. But for other people, like for me, it also means having time to go for walks or swim in the middle of the day, cook nice food, time to write and think. And so I'm building that life. But I just think for everyone, I'd love people to think a bit more about that in terms of what does it mean to me to have a good quality of life? Because it's not, I'm pretty sure, being stressed out of your brain, racing through the next hurdle, the next job, the next big thing, which so many people seem to be on this hamster wheel, that they feel they can't get off, or they feel they can't change anything.
Yeah, it's a good point. And especially in capital cities like Melbourne, Sydney and whatnot, where it is quite expensive and you feel like you can't get off that hamster wheel. Getting back to these precepts and things that you're talking about is really important. And I want to go, dive a little bit deeper into that. But first, is there any a bit of a fun question? Is there any books that you would use or book titles you use to describe your life so far and what you're doing?
Well, yeah. So when you suggested this question, I was like, the book that comes to me is Alice in Wonderland, which is not really anything like, maybe at the moment it's quite appropriate, but the backstory is it's my absolute favorite book, and I had a tape because I'm old, people, that I listened to every single night for like 10, maybe more years. I don't know, like to go to sleep. It was like my real comfort thing. And I love the story. So it came to mind. Then I'm like, it is interesting because I am actually like midway down a rabbit hole at the moment in terms of, I don't know where I'm going to land quite. Like I'm in the midst of this big change and unknown. Everything looks different. Everything feels different. So I was like, it is actually quite an appropriate book for me right now. And I also love it and recommend anyone with small children, read it. It's fabulous.
No, it is. And one of my favorite anecdotes from that book is when Alice gets to the fork in the road and the Cheshire Cat is in the tree. And Alice asks from memory, to the best of my recollection, lawyers told me to say that, she said, which way do I go? And the Cheshire Cat says, well, where do you want to go? And she goes, well, I don't really have a destination. He goes, well, if you don't know which way you want to go, any road will get you there. And I think that's quite interesting. Yeah,
so
like nailed it, right?
Nailed it for a lot of what I talk about in my coaching and mentoring, and also where I'm at. And it's like, I think there's all these winding parts. People think it's really binary, like I've got to choose this or this, and one way's wrong and one way's right. And I often think, well, if you're meant to get somewhere, if you're really passionate, you could go this winding path or this winding path, and you'll probably get to a similar spot. It's just that we think you've got these binary decisions, which I think often is not the case at all. It's a lot more nuanced. Life's a lot more winding than we think. Yeah.
I think so. And just a reminder, it's 12:08 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Put your questions in the comments, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. I'm going to try and keep an eye over here. It's all happening today. But this is the first time I saw this term, portfolio career. I'd like to talk about your recent changes to a portfolio career. One, what does that mean? And tell us about these changes.
Sure. So you mentioned I started like real work in 2012 that's when I got admitted as a lawyer. I've worked in big law firms basically my whole career. And my last job, I ran a consulting practice at a large law firm. And it was a great, really cool job. I built the practice. I designed it how I wanted. And it was a lot of fun. But I had worked out that for me, being channeled at one single driver, like in that case, making a profitable practice, does not make me happy because I have so many things I'm interested in. And then working out, well, what does that mean for my work? I don't want to pigeonhole myself in one thing.
No.
This concept of a portfolio career, which is where I do bits and pieces of things, and there's pillars. So my pillars really are coaching and mentoring, and that's one-to-one or in group settings, facilitation, and a lot of that sort of strategy facilitation work in law, because that's my wheelhouse, some consulting, some writing and public speaking, and getting a portfolio of, paid work in that area. So they're kind of like my building blocks. And for me, that it's exploring and responding to opportunities that come up in each of those and trying to make sure there's some balance. I don't want to just coach all the time because you're giving a lot one-to-one. Facilitation lights me up, but again, it's high energy, and working out how to manage my finite energy source so I give the most to each group I'm with without burning myself into the ground. So yeah, it's
No,
like having my cake and eating it too, basically, as a career.
it's a good point. And how do you pick what projects you do, or where do you put your resources? Because with so many hats that you wear, it's very
Yeah.
easy to maybe spread yourself too thin, or devote yourself too heavily in one area.
Yes. And this is the big work and set of lessons I'm in the midst of, because it is very tempting to work corporately. And what I mean by that is I could sit down at 8 a.m. and beaver away till who knows when every day, because there's endless opportunities out there, right, that I can hunt down. So a big part of what I'm doing is the antidote to that is like doing less and seeing what comes in. And that, I must say, feels so uncomfortable as a planner and a doer and a busy bee. But I find if I go after things I'm interested in, which is things like writing, different things that aren't directly like, hey, can I coach you? The opportunities come in, and they're opportunities that are right for me because someone's really liked the way I'm writing or speaking. So, opportunities come in recently that is really exciting for me based on some of my posts about donkeys in Japan and things, so it's like,
I love that. I think that was so
yeah,
good.
so it all links. And for me, the way I'm managing is by pursuing things I'm interested in and writing a lot and looking after myself so well, and things come, which is a very non-business way to work, but it is absolutely working for me at the moment.
It sounds to me, because I see some of the quotes on your LinkedIn, and I think it's Henry David Thoreau. He talks about the ants and whatnot, and I think he wrote a book called Walden, where he just lived in the forest and just took it in. How important is that kind of getting away from the hustle and bustle and the business of life? Do you find it so important? Obviously, case in point, Japan and getting
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. So creating space for me is critical. And I know I'm not here to give people lessons, but if I can say one thing to anyone listening, it's finding pockets of space. And whether that's through, I know you're a runner, Cullen, so like whether it's through your exercise, or whether it's the way that you make dinner, or it's literally just shutting down all the apps for a while. I just think we have to learn again how to sit still and even be a little bit bored. Because on the other side of that, and there's a lot of quotes about this, on the other side of boredom is creativity or new ideas. And we don't, in our current lifestyles, give ourselves a huge amount of space for thinking, space for listening into what we need, space for new strategic directions. So I'm learning as a recovering, very busy bee how to give myself more space than feels right. And that's partly through exercise and rest practices. So I do a lot of lying down with things over my eyes, writing, and learning to just sit without any inputs, which is not easy, but has powerful outcomes. So yeah, space. Can't speak highly
Yes.
enough.
No, that's a good point. I think it was Descartes or someone said it's all of people's problems stems from the inability to sit in a room alone, and it's definitely quite hard, I must say.
It is very hard. And if you ask a group of people, like, when was the last time you rested, or when was the last time you did nothing? People get a bit at the thought of it. They think that's
You mean
laziness.
like do nothing, nothing, no TV, no phone, no
Do
nothing, no
nothing.
book?
Look out the
Yeah.
window, or even sit on a train and look at the people around you, or drive without anything. Like, are in this world. We've got to like input all the time. I've got to learn more. I've got to do more. I've got to be more. It's like, oh, let's take the pressure off a bit. Let's breathe.
It's so true. It's so true. And it's a nice little segue into your whole philosophy, and this whole philosophy of burnout. What is your maxim, or what is it that you believe? What is the philosophy of Mollie Tregillis?
I think I have many maxims. So I'll just, on the burnout point, really, I think life's too short to suffer burnout without doing something about it. And that is in no way to criticize anyone that gets there. I got there, right? Like, I have been burnt out and have recovered from it. But I think people assume, particularly in really high performance, high stress environments like the law, that it's just part and parcel. Like, you just have to be stressed all the time. It's the only way to be. And so for me, I say no. Like, absolutely, each and every person deserves a good quality of life, whatever that looks like, and deserves a life where stress has its place, a useful place, say, oh, I'm nervous before I speak on a stage, or I've got to get something done. It's not our constant existence. And I know for a lot of people I work with, speak to, engage with, they're up here in stress land all the time. And it's just, we have to shift that understanding. We have to expect more from our lives, really.
Yeah, we really do expect more from your lives. I love that. And I put that in Life's Too Short to Suffer Burnout. We had Stephanie Costi on our show a few episodes ago, and she was talking about that is you shouldn't have to go to work and go through either bullying or burnout and then have to pay a psychologist for that. You know what I mean? Like it's a cognitive dissonance, right? Why are we going to work to make ourselves sicker?
We spend a lot of money on being well. And what I worked out, because I, like most people in law firms, had a lovely job, but I was sitting with a high level of stress a lot of the time. Didn't even realize it till I stopped. It's like seeing a nutritionist about my stomach, like all these things. Got a shoulder problems. I couldn't lift very heavy weights because my back hurt. Tell you what, not being stressed really solved a lot of those problems. So really it's bizarre. The reducing my stress right down has diminished the majority of any health issues I'd had.
Well, you're like a living example. You got an aura about you. You're like the after of a Bupa commercial, right? When you meet
I have sat in a hot spa this morning. I'm truly living my walk in the talk.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And we want this to be high value for everyone. How can we, as busy working professionals, work better and more joyful lives? How do we do it, Mollie?
I wish I had a single answer. I think this idea of space, and what I say to people that find that really confronting is start really with any change like this, start small. It could be you commit, okay, when I'm walking to the train station, I won't have earbuds in. So I won't listen to anything. I'll give myself 5 minutes of just nothing. Start that small, because what we find and what I see in any work I've done, group I've worked with, a few little micro changes can have an exponential effect. So you just tweak. It's not about ripping the carpet up. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to suddenly have a portfolio career like I've had, but you start thinking, okay, what am I going to do that's really small? I'm going to take my AirPods out when I'm walking. I'm going to not watch TV and scroll on my phone at the same time. I'm just going to do one or the other. You know what I mean? I'm going to get my phone out of my bedroom. I'm going to make sure I stand in the sun for 5 minutes every morning before I do anything else. Things that feel manageable and right, and experiment. One of the things I think people in the legal ecosystem most have had, work with lawyers, are lawyers, this idea of, I've tried it, it didn't work, I've failed. And then what's the point in trying again? It's let's think about these as experiments or iterations, have a bit more of a design thinking mindset. I tried that thing, and breathing, I hated it. I hated doing breath work. Someone else might love it. But actually for me, walking without AirPods is really meditative. And that I'm going to add that to what I would call a stress relief toolkit. So our first job is getting from up here down a little bit in terms of where our stress sits and knowing how to help ourselves when things get up here. And I would say everyone should read the book Burnout. And I've posted it recently, and I can share a link with you, Cullen, if it's helpful to share.
That would be
people.
good. I'll share it in the show notes for sure. I'm just sharing it here as well. Yeah.
It just talks about the stress cycle in this really simple way that makes it easy to understand how we can start to close the stress cycle when something stressful happens, rather than just living in this constant state of, which I think is really important, and fundamentally changed the way I helped myself in the early days of burnout.
The Secret to Solving the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski.
Yeah.
Lovely. I'll put that
and
right
even if
in
you
here.
just read the first section, because I know people are time poor, first section, you can read it in a sitting. It just explains something that can change your brain about the way you deal with stress.
I think that's important. So I'm going to put that here. So Burnout, The Secret to Solving the Stress Cycle. It's looks like it's only, guys and girls, $20, $19.95 on Amazon. So please get the
Yep,
Audible.
I've got it as an
Um,
ebook. Got some little highlighted notes in there. Yeah, highly recommend.
No, I've put that in there, so it's definitely important. And any interesting passion projects you can share with us that you're working on?
Yes, interesting. So I'm thinking a lot at the moment about this idea of what are the cultural changes needed in the law to have a more well profession. And I've got this theory I'm percolating on about sort of the five key factors that are present or missing in legal teams that are avoiding busy work and burnout. And I'm really excited to speak a lot more about that and bring groups together to have really vulnerable, strong conversations. One of the things I love most is bringing people together to talk about these deep things, not with the view of having like one answer, but getting people thinking, bringing groups together to think. So I'm looking at ways to do that. I'm also percolating on like a YouTube series. I love talking to camera. So I'm thinking of like a month, monthly themes where I share some videos each month. And I'm also looking at my corporate recovery program, which I'm loving. My group is amazing. Opening registrations for the next one for July, I think. So they're kind of percolating around. I write on my Substack. Oh, a whole lot of things.
That's
Trying
so
to
many
keep the balance
things.
between creative and commercial at all times. And I'm looking for a little office space that is just my own. So my current actual passion focus is like dreaming of a little beautiful white office somewhere in the city that I can have, Virginia Woolf says a room of her own, a room of one's own. That's what I need. A little room of my
That's what
own.
we need. If anyone knows where Mollie can get this space, feel free to cheeky DM.
I'm so keen to hear about little spaces in the Melbourne CBD or surrounding.
Perfect. Done. And who should be signing up for this program of yours? Like, who's your tribe that? Oh yeah, I see it all the time. I'm looking for 20 people. Like, who are these people that should be coming?
These people are people who are questioning the status quo of their work and life. So they're asking the question, how can I live and work well or better than I am now? There's no prerequisite that you have to be burnt out or wanting to leave your job. It's just people that are somewhere in corporate, doesn't have to be the law, who are thinking, there's a better way to do this. I could feel better and I'm not really sure how to get there. And I'd love to have a supportive group to talk to about this. And I would say my current group are so amazing and supportive of each other. It's just every time I speak to them, like it warms my heart so much just to hear them all. It's because it's not just me like blabbling on, like everyone's advising each other and coaching each other. So if you like the cut of my jib and you're working on thinking about those things, the group's probably a good place. It's just, my favorite thing, my heart work.
And people should reach out your LinkedIn or your website that you have got for this.
LinkedIn, website, which is mollietregillis.com. I'm also on Instagram at Mollie_Treg. So I love a chat, I love a coffee, love a little meeting. So if anyone's interested in these things we're talking about, I'm really passionate about it all.
Fantastic. I've got mollietregillis.com and feel free to follow Instagram, Twitter, all the socials. And I'm looking forward to this YouTube show. Let me tell you, that'll be fantastic.
No pressure. Now I've said it, I've got to do something about it, Cullen.
You definitely do. Absolutely. Like the road of someday leads to the town of nowhere. You've actually set yourself a goal. It's got to be happening now.
Yeah, it's going to be done.
And any lessons for younger corporates or lawyers watching, starting their career?
I think this new generation has a really exciting, I know there's all the doom and gloom, AI, jobs, blah, blah. I think there's a really exciting time ahead for this next generation to really expect something different from their work. And I'm prepping a talk for something else about this new group. They're the stewards of a new way of working. So our future leaders need to start thinking now about what are the conditions they want at work and how to be strategic and creative about accessing them. So I'd say to the younger generation, don't think holistically about your life, make work an important part. Working hard's never going to get old, right? Like working hard with passion is here to stay, but with chasing a quality of life. And what, like, that could be something really simple or something big, but don't just climb the path because you see other people doing it. What do you want? Like, what is the inner world of you saying? Listen to it and don't lose it, because corporate world can make you lose that inner voice quick smart, and we want to keep it. We want everyone to be able to know what they really need and want.
Don't lose that inner
How's that?
voice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It reminds me of a book that I'm reading at the moment. Don't Die with Your Music Still in You, with Wayne Dyer before he died. So it's an interesting concept, and I highly recommend people jump onto that train of thought. I think it's powerful.
Yeah.
And this is a bit morbid, maybe a bit morose, but I think it's important, and we should think about it every day. When all is said and done, Mollie, how would you like to be remembered?
Yeah. I think I'd like to be remembered as like a good person who, you see those people and you think, gee, she lived a good life. She did good things. She really enjoyed herself. She stayed healthy till the end. And, she had a great community around her. Like, they're the things I'm chasing now. I don't need to be like the CEO of the biggest whatever, have the most money. I want to do good work, help people, and generally just have a really nice life.
Oh my goodness. So you're already doing all those things, it seems. You're living your truth, right? Which is
I'm trying. I'm trying every day.
oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure to speak with you, Mollie. We've got some bonus questions I want to ask you, but where
Yeah.
can you said LinkedIn, is there any other places people should be reaching out to you to follow your stuff?
Just Instagram. I do some chit chatting on Instagram, LinkedIn. I don't really use Twitter. It scares me. My Substack's called The Mollusk. You can find links to it. And that's more like longer form creative writing to get that outlet out there. So yeah, they're the main things.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, Mollie. Thank you so much for devoting this half hour to us. And yeah, keep shining.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. We'll bring you back shortly.
Sure.
And if you are a legend of law or know someone who is and you'd like to get them on the Law Life, please reach out. We come out every Wednesday, and we'll be uploading this to wherever you get your podcast. And thank you for either watching live or rewatching. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a great afternoon and evening, everyone. Bye for now. Bringing you back, Mollie, we got 2 bonus questions we'd love to ask you. How would you explain what you do and your role, job, freelance lifestyle to a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old, as the case may be?
I was actually writing about this earlier today, and I don't have my notes about what I put down because it's a work in progress to get this really tight. I think at the moment I'd say I work in the legal industry. I work with lawyers and people in the legal industry to help them with big problems and navigating change and assisting people to feel good in their work. I don't know. I'm still working on it, but I feel like that's like 6-year-old level.
That's easy to understand, though. I guess you help with those big problems to put them into perspective to make maybe lessen them or live better lives, right?
Yeah. And also for organizations, helping them work out how they can do better. How can law firms and like do better, help their people and operate better. So it's kind of that whole system piece I'm interested in. That's beyond a 6-year-old's level, but that's certainly part of it too.
Very good. Probably not beyond your little one, who's quite sharp, I hear on the grapevine. Probably would understand, probably thinking about that global piece already.
He's a child of a barrister and a lawyer, so he's got no hope, really.
No, exactly. My goodness. I'm looking forward to seeing big things there. And this is actually a lovely segue. If you could give yourself advice at any age, go back in time. I know you've only been on this earth 21 or 22 years, but
really.
What age would you go back and give yourself advice, and what exactly would that advice be?
Oh, my younger self needs so much advice. It's really hard to pick a time. I just took everything so seriously. And now that I've got actual responsibilities, I'd say go and have a bit more fun. Honestly, just grab life a little more and stop worrying so much. travel more, do all the things that now are logistically, need a plan, be a bit more spontaneous and have a bit more fun and worry less, because there was actually really nothing to worry about back then.
What did Mark Twain say back in the day? I've had many worries in my life, most of which have never happened.
Exactly. All the things I worried about before I had a kid, didn't worry about a pandemic, didn't worry about the right things. So what is the point? What is the
exactly point? Don't worry, it's praying for a future you do not want. That's sound advice, Mollie. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again for joining in. It's been the highlight of my week, month, and everything so far. So thank you so much. Look forward to seeing everything you come out with in 2024.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All the best, everyone. Have a great Wednesday. Take